it's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does, and great to have you with us on this Thursday edition of the show. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. Final regular show of the week. Special programming tomorrow for the 4th of July holiday. But I figured if it's a Thursday, it's always a good time to talk some baseball. And we do it with our friend David Aardsma, who hangs out with us, former big league reliever, closer, our guy. Hangs out with Sam and me every Thursday on the show. And a lot of baseball to go through today on the program. I want to start it out with the Dodgers because there was a range of emotions going through last night's game. And start with Clayton Kershaw, who is the 20th pitcher. You know, you talk about exclusive clubs in baseball. And I think there's context that needs to be included with any of these things. But Kershaw to 3,000 strikeouts, granted in an era where hitters strike out a lot more, guys. Not trying to pour cold water on it, but in an era where hitters strike out a lot more, doesn't mean the same thing as it did, 30 years ago when Wade Boggs was only striking out 30 times in an entire season. But that said, you're talking about only 20 guys in the history of pitching in Major League Baseball that have struck out 20 guys, David. Struck out 3,000 guys, David. That's pretty amazing.
There's only that many guys that struck out 20? No.
All right.
And the only fourth lefty, which is incredible. The first one since CC Sabathia. Clayton Kershaw, what do you say? It's a matter of more people strike out, but it's harder to get to the innings to get those strikeouts in today's game. There will be less and less 3,000 strikeout pitchers than there have ever been in any other decade. I truly believe this in any other time in baseball. Kershaw's been amazing his entire career from the moment he came up in 2008. I still love the whole Scherzer versus Kershaw start, where it's supposed to be Johnson versus Maddox, and everyone's probably disappointed, and yet you're seeing, instead of two Hall of Famers, you see two Hall of Famers. Absolutely amazing. And one of probably the three best pitchers of my entire generation, and this generation you get to see still on the field for a little bit longer in Scherzer, Verlander, and Kershaw. But just absolutely amazing. And, outside of Verlander and what he's been able to accomplish, Kershaw was definitely, I think, the best of the three. Verlander was just able to accomplish it on that second level.
Will we get any more? Will we see any more anytime soon? Is anybody close? Sam, I don't know. You're Mr. Numbers geek over there, so I say that with love, by the way. I'm not being mean here. Because people get mad at me when I pick on Sam. I don't tell Sam this, but I get texts from people on the show. I get texts from viewers who are like, "Why are you so mean to Sam? Why do you pick on Sam?" I'm not picking on Sam. So Sam, if you can,
Chris Sale will get there. He's the next guy on the list. He's 400 away. Garrett Cole might get there. He needs 750 more.
Garrett Cole will get there then.
Charlie Morton, without a doubt.
Who?
That's the next list is Charlie.
Garbage.
Charlie
Morton's 41 years old. That's the thing.
Charlie Morton?
That's the smile. That's the...
Talk about diminishing the number. God.
What were you saying?
After that, you'll get into the younger generation, right? Okay. That post Chris Sale generation, after we had that little that spark of a rise in hitting there between 2015 and 19, where hitting was off the charts because Major League Baseball was messing with the balls.
Okay.
Then you'll see the next Strider and all those guys.
Let me ask another question about this game, because there was a pretty serious play where, and the Dodgers go on to win. It's fine. They beat the White Sox. Yay. And it's nice. Walk off win, blah, blah, blah. What I want to talk about is the play with Max Muncy, because we talk about it in the NFL all the time. Quarterbacks that get their wide receivers killed, with throwing the ball over the middle. Guys got to stretch out because the ball's not where it's supposed to be, and you see the wide receiver get blown up by the DB. I got to tell you something. That is essentially what Will Smith did to Max Muncy last night with that throw down to third where Muncy hurts his knee. He throws it into a spot where Muncy's got to stretch out, puts him in a vulnerable position, and he gets hurt as a result. That's on Will Smith, David, isn't it?
I guarantee you Will Smith is owning that and letting everybody know how bad he feels about it. But the third baseman can't put his leg right in the middle of the sliding path. To me, it looked like.
Isn't it instinctive, though? Isn't that instinctive?
Where I'm seeing is Max Muncy is a little late to the bag, and that led him into the line versus over the bag. Because if he's standing over the bag where he would normally be standing, he's more diving across, and he's still catching it before he has to dive and leave his feet. That's to me, yes, he left it over the baseline, but when Max Muncy puts that leg right in the middle of where he's sliding into third base, it's the same as last week. I believe it was last week when there was a throw from center field into the catcher, and the catcher comes running up into the baseline with a runner running down third base, and there's this huge collision at the plate. That ball, he should never be moving into the baseline to catch that ball. He should catch it behind the baseline or in front of the baseline. That's the rule number one with position players. Don't get yourself into the baseline to catch the ball. Be over the bag and come forward through it if you have to. The throw wasn't as bad as it looked. It's where the foot was. It wasn't a good throw. It wasn't a good throw.
Well, it's also, and maybe this is just the former catcher, but also former third baseman in me coming out, it is the hardest throw to make in baseball, arguably. There's a right-handed hitter in the box. It's a low inside pitch, and you got to throw to third. It is one of the hardest throws to make in baseball. And David's exactly right. As a third baseman, they teach you when the throw's going up the line from the catcher, you move back. You move towards the shortstop position. You sacrifice the runner for maintaining possession of the ball and not letting the throw potentially get into the outfield. So there was a little bit of a misplay by Max Muncy there. David, I wanted to ask you this, though. We're coming up on the July 4th holiday, and obviously that's a big day in baseball. With the last minute we have, what's your favorite memory from playing on July 4th? You did it 5 different times. At least you got into the game 5 different times on July 4th.
I love just being the last pitcher and seeing the fireworks when I get done. My best memory.
Or you're serving up the fire, or in some cases, you're serving up the fireworks.
Yeah, that probably happened too. Honestly, one of the best memories I ever have is sitting on the field with my kids watching the fireworks after the game. The games don't even matter at that point. I love it. I love everything about July 4th. I love pitching and being in baseball and just having those moments. And I probably did serve up some fireworks for sure.
Do your kids remember it?
Yes, they remember the Long Island Ducks. They would definitely remember my last one.
Who wouldn't remember the Long Island Ducks? We got more to do with David. We're coming back. We keep things moving on this edition of Sports Wrap, and love talking baseball with our guy David Aardsma on the show every week. We have just as much fun in the off-air conversations as we do on the air. I wish this is why we need to do a live show. Sam, go ahead. You had something for David.
Well, David, we were talking about July 4th at the end of the last segment, and as I was looking into how many times you played on July 4th, it led me to realize that July was one of your best months pitching. I think your ERA was of your career, it was the lowest by month in July. You struck out a ton of guys in July and you didn't walk very many. I'm curious, what led to your success generally in the month of July, and what do you think can help pitchers around the league potentially reach their peak form as we get to the 7th month of the year?
Suck every other month and decide to pitch well one month. Trying to make all-star teams maybe. No, really what it is, I put down this, and I was talking to my son about this the other day, actually really funny. When the months get hotter, when things start heating up and some players start struggling because it's hot, it's tough, and the hitters start getting better, that's when I absolutely loved it. I loved taking advantage of those moments and worked harder, tried to do better, tried to get better at those times, especially in like a September stuff or August in minor leagues when everybody else doesn't want to, they just want to finish out the season. Those are my chances to get back called up. So you always work a little harder. I always thought it was once everything started warming up for me. then my arm started warming up. I was actually, I think velocity-wise, probably threw the hardest out of any month also in July because it just felt right. And I remember times in Boston when I was just sitting at 98, 99, or with the Cubs, touching 100, 102, where I just felt the best when it was the hottest. I hated day games, though. Day game stats are horrible, I think.
I got to get your thoughts on the Yankees, who are no longer in first place alone in the AL East. Toronto is surging. They are now tied with the Yankees atop the AL East. You have Tampa Bay just a half game out, one on the loss side. And look, I mean, there's no getting around it. The Yankees aren't playing well right now. The one good news is, as I told Sam he would, Aaron Judge is getting back on track. That is the one good piece of news for the Yankees. But everything else feels, especially when you look at the pitching, I keep telling everybody Devin Williams is going to be a heart attack every time he comes in. And last night was the latest example of that. Another disaster for him. And the Yankees have lost or lose 3 in a row to the Toronto Blue Jays, David. Is there anything, because I see a lot of people on social media, which is not the greatest barometer to judge anything. Yes. I know. But I'm part of that cesspool too sometimes, so I have to throw myself under the bus. Is there anything that could happen where Aaron Boone would lose his job
this year?
Yeah.
No. This team is still too good, even at their worst, which is right now and 4-6 in the last 10.
Why is he putting Devin Williams in the game in the 8th inning? I know it's the meat of the lineup for the Blue Jays, but why are you putting Devin Williams in the 8th inning?
Because until this year, he was the best reliever in baseball.
Oh my God! We have enough of a sample of him sucking now. We don't need to know.
Somebody has to pitch the innings sometimes. Somebody before the game might be coming. You have a sore elbow, sore shoulder. Say, hey, coach, I need a day. I need one day. And you know what? Pitch that dude who's won the reliever pitcher of the year a couple times in a row. Type of stuff like that. And there's a lot of things behind the scenes and matchups that have historically worked. Doesn't always work that day. That's the crazy thing about baseball. There's 162 games, and we live and die on each one of them. And it's tough when you're the manager of these teams and you have to pitch these guys. And you keep putting the guy who always has been successful in situations this year and he's not been successful. They need another reliever. They need another lockdown guy. Luke Weaver, again, struggled the other day. Devin Williams obviously has been struggling. I love these moments in a season, though. I love this. And the Mets were going through this as well last week and still haven't quite come out of it yet either. These are the moments when you find out how good of a team you are because you give something that shows up and everybody sees it and saying, we're struggling and all of your flaws are coming to the surface. These are those moments when good teams become great because you start having adversity and you have something to fight for. When it's just a clear path to the finish line, those teams never win. They don't finish out the season best. The Dodgers, the best thing that ever happened to the Dodgers was the Padres. Padres gave them a run for their money, made them refocus. Best thing that's going to happen to this Yankees team, best thing that happens to the Mets team are the Phillies and the Blue Jays that are going to push these teams to be better.
David, there have been a ton of low ERAs in baseball this year. It felt like, to me, more than normal. So I went and looked into it. There are actually 23 qualified starters right now with a sub-3 ERA. That's like what we would consider as elite, right?
Yes.
That felt like a lot. So I went back and looked. Last year, as we finished the season, there were only 9 guys who finished as qualified starters with a sub-3 ERA. I know it's July 3rd as we're doing this segment, but obviously the number is up 23 compared to 9. Even if we finish with 18, that's twice as many. What do you think has led to the dropping in ERAs across baseball this year?
So what we're also seeing in the number that you threw out there in there is the qualified number. I'm seeing more qualified guys. I'm seeing guys that are actually getting to some later innings. It feels like the teams are allowing them to get further into games. And so I'm seeing guys that are a little healthier, staying longer in games. I know we went through an epidemic of injuries early in the season, but we haven't been, as of late, as many guys getting hurt. So that's one thing I love. But we're seeing some young talent. That's where I'm starting to really see these things. Are these young, talented pitchers starting to step up and pitch really well, right? We talked about Mackenzie Gore off air. We talked about him off air. But a Garrett Crochet, too, continuing to do what they've done in the past. A Hunter Brown stepping up and becoming a Cy Young worthy type of pitcher instead of just these old salty pitchers that we've known in the past. We're starting to see a group of young pitchers step forward. And I think that's the big jump, is that young group from last year now coming up and getting those innings that they've needed to be able to be qualified. And that's the big jump for me, is there's a Paul Skeens in there. You're talking about some of these other guys and not just the salty old vets. You're seeing these young guys being the qualified guys as well. And it's amazing. It's a great time for pitching.
Yeah, certainly is. You mentioned Paul Skeens, and the team he plays for right now. It's one of the hottest in baseball. I don't know if I'd go as far as Bob Nightingale, who says Don Kelly's working his way into Manager of the Year conversation in the National League. I don't know if I'd go that far. It's a little hyperbolic, but the Pirates are doing some great things right now. I want to ask David Aardsma about that as we continue on this Thursday edition of Sports Wrap. David Aardsma hangs out with us on the show every week to talk baseball. More of that coming up. Let's take it to segment 3 on Sports Wrap. Hanging out with David Aardsma, former big league reliever, our closer. Hangs out with us on Thursdays to talk baseball. We mentioned the Pirates. Winners of 6 straight. Blowing the doors off everybody. Just ask the Mets. Playing a lot better baseball. I don't know if there's time for them to still get themselves back into the wild card race in the National League, but what's changed for the Pirates, David?
A couple good matchups. That's it. It's a good week, just like we talked about with the Mets. We talked about the Yankees, talked about everybody. You're going to have great weeks. You're going to have bad weeks. I still don't see this as any giant thing to step back and go, oh my God, but they're hitting well, they're pitching well, they're playing good defense. Against the Cardinals, they had 3 shutouts in a row, played great offense against the Mets, the 12 runs, 9 runs, and they pitched and they gave up, 4 runs the entire series. But let's not forget, right before that, they lost 2 of 3 to Milwaukee, 2 of 3 to Texas, 2 of 3 to Detroit, 2 of 3 to the Cubs. This is a great stretch. And if you can somehow keep putting up zeros and scoring 12 runs a game, amazing. You are the best manager of all time. Sometimes you run in these stretches the right time. And we talked about a little bit about mid-year slumps. We've heard about it for the history of baseball. Mid-year slumps happen with pitching, happen with hitting, and they happen with teams. And great teams tend to go into little slumps in the middle of the year. And some teams are that team that steps up and says, thank you very much, I'll take these wins. But we've also known this too. The Pirates have had the best pitching young staff in baseball. And when those guys are getting going, watch out. And it doesn't matter. You just need to score 1 run. If you get these guys going with Skeens, Keller, Falter, Haney, these guys get going, they're pretty amazing. Haney's not the youngest guy in the world.
Yeah, a hot name potentially on the block come the trade deadline, David, is funny enough Jacob DeGrom, because of how underperforming the Texas Rangers have been this season. But I wanted to take a moment to kind of appreciate the renaissance of DeGrom this year. Listen, 14 straight starts now. He's allowed 6 or fewer hits and 2 or fewer runs, right? We consider that a quality start. 14 in a row. He's the first pitcher in the modern era to do that. The entire month of June, you know how many extra base hits he gave up? One. The entire month. The renaissance of Jacob DeGrom has been incredible, and the run of health, something you talked about earlier, has been impressive too. Do you think this can continue for more years to come? Because I think a lot of us thought he was approaching the end.
Well, my preseason Cy Young winner for the AL was Jacob DeGrom. So I 100% believe this is it. This is where he should be. He is 37. It's not like he's getting younger. It's not like he's getting healthier. But for some reason right now, everything is connecting. Everything is great. I believe he still has another run, another 1 or 2 seasons in him. I 100% believe it. If he's on the trade market, I am circling him and I am highlighting it and saying, what do we have to do to get him? I can't give up the house for him. But if I'm one pitcher away, I'm definitely making a run for him because, yes, it's going to be a lot of money in the back end, but who cares if he's pitching this well? He is on a run that is absolutely incredible, and I want to be a part of that. The Rangers should want him to be a part of that as well. And the Rangers, again, let's not forget, they are only a couple games out of the wild card hunt. No matter how bad they are, they still have huge pieces. And if they have another bat or another guy in the bullpen or something, they can make him run just as easily as anybody else because outside the Astros, no one else really wants that West, and there are availability in that wild card in the American League side. So their Rangers are going to really tough spot. Do you make a run? Because if you get rid of DeGrom, but you're still paying $200 million to other guys.
Guys, a couple of more good years for DeGrom. It's going to be a really interesting conversation on him as a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
I don't know.
Two Cy Young Award.
He's got 93 career wins.
Wins are not a pitcher stat anymore.
I get it, but I mean, that's so ridiculously low.
But he is the embodiment of why. The reason he'll get into the Hall of Fame not based on his wins is because he is the embodiment of why wins are not a pitcher's stat. For all those years in New York, when he would give you a quality start, go 7 innings, give up 1 run, and take the loss because he had no offense behind him. I think his quality start number would be a more interesting one to look at.
But forget 300 wins. He may not even make 300 starts.
He might not have 2,000 innings pitched.
He is going to be a fascinating case study.
It's Lincecum. This is the same argument as Lincecum without the rings side of it, right? But we got Rookie of the Year, 2-time Cy Young winner, top 10 in Cy Young 6 times.
Mm-hmm. I would love to talk to Hall of Fame voters. I would love to talk to Hall of Fame voters about this. When
he's healthy, he is the best pitcher in the world.
The best.
And he's always been the best pitcher in the world when he's healthy. There's never been a point where he's been healthy and hasn't been the best pitcher.
Yesterday, the big story in the news was, speaking of the Rangers, actually, Kevin Pillar going on one of the shows on Twitter and saying that he really just didn't have a great time as a Texas Ranger, and that's why he retired. You ever been on a team like that had a teammate leave the team and make comments on the team that were not great?
I've never been on a team that had somebody leave comments like that. I've been on some bad teams. I've been on some teams where people left the team and was happy to be on another team. And I'm like, that's a pretty good call. Actually, that's exactly what I would have. That's what I would have felt. I've been on teams with, and there's a Hall of Famer the player that is currently playing that will be a Hall of Famer, flat out first ballot Hall of Famer, that I never wanted to play with again at that point in his career, and had to have a conversation with him while I'm going out the door and his career is just getting started, say, you got to change right now. And so I've been in places where that were very miserable and were tough, and I don't want, and they had to change, and they did. And that's the beautiful part, is that player changed immediately. And so there's moments like that. I just don't like calling out places quite the way he did. But sometimes, I know Kevin Pillar, know him very well. Sometimes things need to be said. And right now, if I'm looking at where the Rangers are now and where they were 2 years ago, I'd be shaking that tree, saying, if I'm Chris Young, saying, what is happening here? And I would listen to him. I'd call Pillar up and say, we need to have some deeper conversations about what's happening in that clubhouse and why you would have to say things like that. Or maybe he knows it, or maybe it's just a disgruntled guy. It happens too. But something has to change, because the win-loss record on the field is matching exactly what he's saying off the field.
That is David Aardsma. He does a great job on all things Major League Baseball. Always appreciate him hanging out with us Thursdays here on SportsWrap. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this Thursday edition of the show. Thanks to David Aardsma for hanging out with us. Well, the Knicks made news yesterday. Of course, they made it right after we finished putting the show to bed yesterday. Never fails. Right after we got done talking to Kurt Heelan of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. But in that conversation, we touched on the fact that Mike Brown was likely to become the next Knicks head coach. And Mike Brown looks like he will be the next Knicks head coach. And Sam, I did a SportsWrap short on this yesterday, which, by the way, if people don't know, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. You get the show there every day, Monday through Friday, commercial free, early in the afternoon, and SportsWrap shorts, which are clips sometimes from the show, sometimes clips not from the show. Go and check that out. Subscribe today. I did a SportsWrap short on this yesterday, and it's just... it is so quintessential, as you would like to say about certain things. It is so quintessentially Knicks to do what they've done here, to choose Mike Brown to be their next head coach. You know, it's the safe sort of milquetoast. Yeah, you're gonna hurt yourself there. It's that safe milquetoast sort of pick to be the head coach. No, we're not going to go get Michael Malone. We're not going to go get Budenholzer. We're not going to go get guys that have won a championship. No, we're going to get the guy that can win you a lot of games in the regular season. Basically, we're going to go get you Buck Showalter. That's basically what we're going to go get you. We're going to go get Buck Showalter. We're going to go get a guy that can win a bunch of games during the regular season and maybe get you to a conference final. Who knows? Maybe even get you to an NBA final. But if you didn't have confidence in the idea that Tom Thibodeau was the guy to win an NBA championship as a head coach for the New York Knicks, what would make you think Mike Brown? I'm just thinking as a fan here. What would inspire fans? What would make you think Mike Brown is going to be the guy to lead the Knicks to an NBA title, Sam?
Right. You said the most important thing there at the end. This is why it's such a head scratcher to me. And I nodded so hard because my reaction was the same. It is quintessentially Knicks, right? Hey, we're the New York Knicks. We're going to fire our head coach because our tires are stuck in the mud despite making the Eastern Conference Finals again. So we're going to fire our head coach because we're just a step away. Who are we going to go out and get? The head coach that was fired by a franchise that fired him because the tires were stuck in the mud and they couldn't get over the hump and actually win meaningful games. That makes a lot of sense. When you put two and two together, that is very, very logical. No, it makes no sense, as many decisions that Leon Rose and therein James Dolan do in fact make. I am left scratching my head. Am I surprised? No. Do I understand it simultaneously? No. Listen, the Knicks are not, they kind of missed the boat, it feels like. It's starting to feel like the unraveling of this offseason and the whole Giannis is going to be a Knick. Oh, wait, no, he's actually not at all. Oh, wait, Kevin Durant wanted to be a Knick. Oh, wait, the Knicks didn't want Kevin Durant back. Oh, now the Knicks can't find a coach. Oh, now they found a coach who got fired because of exactly the same reason they just fired their head coach for. It does feel like the unraveling of the Knicks and the closing of the window.
I don't even know if it's the closing of the window. I don't even want to go that far.
Maybe that is a bridge too far.
Because I love the addition of Jordan Clarkson. It gives them something they desperately needed, which is bench scoring. And as Kurt Heelan said on the show yesterday, Jordan Clarkson really only does one thing, but he does it really well, and that's score. So I love the addition of Jordan Clarkson to this team. And I do think there are still possibilities out there. I mean, heck, as far-fetched as it will sound, is it that crazy to think Cat for LeBron? Cat and Josh Hart for LeBron? Cat, Josh Hart, and Quentin Grimes for LeBron? It's not that crazy. If the Lakers decided to move off of LeBron.
Do you want to do that? Do you really want to do that?
Yes.
Is that something that you would like to do that and give up pieces of the core that have taken so long to build only for another guy who needs the ball all the time? That doesn't make sense to me.
Give me LeBron.
I get it, he'll sell tickets, but...
Oh, they don't need to sell tickets. They're the Knicks.
Exactly.
They're the Knicks. They don't need to sell tickets. But if you're about winning, but if you're in win now mode, and LeBron is in win now mode,
so is KD, so is Giannis. You wouldn't rather have one of those two? As they already said they wouldn't?
I don't think they can get Giannis. I don't think Giannis is going anywhere because the East is so wide open now, and I think the mindset is, and they're doing everything they can to appease Giannis, i.e., bring in Miles Turner and pay a boatload for him.
Well, the Bucks also made Giannis real mad when they cut Dame Lillard. So who knows?
Yeah,
but I'm with you in that I think he opens the season as a Buck. But that's not to say that there wasn't a window about 2 weeks ago where it seemed like it was a 60% chance he was going to be on the Knicks.
Yeah, I don't think the Knicks are going after LeBron. I don't think they're going to wind up getting LeBron. I am curious to see what other upgrades they make to this roster in the offseason and what a Mike Brown team looks like in terms of just who's going to play. You're not going to have 8 guys playing every night. You're going to actually have more than 8 guys playing. So, it's going to open up the possibility for some things, but it's Mike Brown. You don't fire Tom Thibodeau to hire Mike Brown. That's the whole thing to me here that I can't wrap my head around. You don't fire Tom Thibodeau to hire Mike Brown. You fire Tom Thibodeau to hire Mike Malone. Even as something as crazy as hire Dawn Staley, who's going to be an NBA head coach someday, but you don't do it to hire Mike Brown. What can Brown do for you? We'll find out. We're coming back. More Sports Wrap. All right, Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes with some thoughts on my disappointment in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, despite the fact that Joey Chestnut will be competing in this year's event. After taking last year off, we'll get to that. Politics and sports betting. Not two things you generally think about putting together in a segment, Sam Yarnell, but I've heard a lot of people pontificate and talk about this in the last 24 hours. For some reason, it's just really sprung up. And I don't know why, if it's just people starting to realize the realities of the big, beautiful bill that Congress is trying to push through right now. And I'm not going to get into all the politics and all the minutia of that. But one aspect of it is this, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I've been reading about it bits and pieces here and there, and listening, as I said, to a lot of people talk about it, Sam. This whole thing that's out there of capping sports betting losses, or not sports betting, but gambling losses, is a part of this new legislation where you used to be able to claim 100% of your losses. Now you can only claim 90% of your losses when it comes to your taxes. So a guy who loses 100,000, or if somebody wagers 100,000 and loses 100,000, it's a wash, and you can claim it, and that's fine. But now if you say lose 100,000 and only, or you could explain it probably better than I can.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So there's a common misconception that I think you may have gotten a little bit caught up in, that this only applies to professional gamblers. Mm-hmm. That is not the case. It applies to people who gamble $5.2 million a year, the same as it does to people who gamble $5,200 a year, the same as it does to somebody who gambles $520 in an entire 365-day span. Right?
And it's everywhere in the country. This is a national thing.
This is federal taxing. This is not Vegas. State by state. This is a federal tax amendment. The reason it has become up over the last couple of days is because, and this is actually the part that I don't follow, that you can probably explain to me, seemingly the big beautiful bill was apparently proposed, didn't pass through the bicameral legislature, had to go back for amendments, and within those amendments there was this the fine print that they decided to throw in there, that you can only deduct 90% of your losses from gambling.
So explain that.
Going forward. So what that means, and the easiest way that it's been explained to me, and we'll use the 100,000 basis, right?
Yeah.
If I go and I gamble $100,000 at the sports book and I lose $100,000 and then I win $100,000, right? You would be break even, right? I would not have to file taxes on that. I've lost just as much money as I've made. It is a net break even. Under the new legislation, what's proposed is you will not only have to pay taxes now, you'll have to pay taxes on 10% of whatever that total is. So now we're talking about a $100,000 loss and a $100,000 gain. You're paying taxes 10% on $200,000. Quick math, that's 20 grand to break even. It now costs you. So there's obviously a lot of worry in the sports gambling industry that this is going to drive a couple of things. It's going to drive the common man like you, Jason, me, Sam, normal people who don't gamble millions of dollars a year away from sports gambling. Because why am I going to want to do that if I got to pay 10% of both whether I win or loss on the back end?
Wouldn't you just go to offshore? Wouldn't the money go offshore?
That is I'm so glad you brought that up, Jason. That is the other danger in all of this. And I think in the post-PAPSA days, we've really gotten caught up in the security of legal bookmaking. It is a very dangerous thing to gamble with offshore bookmakers for multiple reasons, right? Not just the old thing that everyone thinks of that, Johnny from Long Island is going to show up with a lead pipe at your door and beat in your knees. That's not why. The reason is because these books are operating outside of U.S. jurisdiction and therefore outside of U.S. law, right? They aren't guaranteed to pay you back if you hit some crazy 11-leg parlay that pays out 30 grand on your $5 bet, right? They're not guaranteed to pay you back that money. It says in their terms and conditions that they don't have to pay you back that money. There are so many things that are dangerous about gambling offshore and so many good things about legalized sports betting that it seems like 7 years removed from the beginning of sports betting legalization, the federal government just wants to walk all over and undo completely.
Is there any chance? Is there enough of a groundswell? Is there enough of a voice for sports bettors? I keep saying sports bettors. Gamblers in general. Those that like to partake in this sort of thing. We're talking slots. We're talking everything.
Right. This is your grandma going to play slots at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. This is you going to play blackjack on a bachelor party at the Aria in Las Vegas. This is everything. This is you playing poker at the WSOP, the World Series of Poker.
But it also should be said, and we only have a few seconds here. It also should be said, most people that are, only wagering a little bit, they're not claiming that stuff or itemizing those things anyway at the end of the year.
Which is going to open a whole other door into people committing tax fraud in this country because you're changing the tax code and then what? You're not going to enforce it? So it's something that I'm perpetually confused by. To answer your question in the last 15 seconds we have, yes, there is a body that is supposed to stand up for the gambler in this instance, the American Gaming Association. They're a lobbying body. They are in D.C., supposedly fighting boots on the ground to get this legislation not to pass.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's still working its way through Washington. By the time we're done, it may have already gone through. Happy 4th of July. Odds and ends are next. All right. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. Final regular show of the week. Tomorrow is 4th of July. We take very few days off. If you've been watching us for the first year and a half of this show, we take very little time off. And the summer is where we try to get our days before the NFL kicks into gear. We will be off on Friday from our regular show. We will have wall-to-wall baseball on Friday's show. So you won't want to miss that if you love baseball. It is, we're at that time of the year where baseball really does dominate. For about a month, and then you get into NFL training camps, preseason games, college football, and then before you know it, we're into football season combined with baseball season. So tomorrow, we will not be here live in our normal live sort of daily show routine. We'll be back on Monday. Couple of reminders for you. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can get this show. Go and subscribe. It's free, commercial free as well, and always worth a good listen while you're driving to work, on the plane, the train, in the shower, wherever it may be. We also give you a lot of different ways to watch the show. We're on over 220 affiliates around the country. That number about to grow as we get ready for the start of football season. Looking forward to sharing that news with all of you. Also, you can watch the show on Spotify every day. In addition to being able to get the podcast version, the audio version, there's a video podcast of the show. But we have this really cool thing. It's the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed, go and subscribe. Tons of free content there every day. The show, commercial free, Monday through Friday, available on our YouTube channel, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Go and check that out. Sports Wrap shorts are there, clips from the show, sometimes clips not from the show. When news breaks, we're there to bring it to you with Sports Wrap shorts. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. Some good news to report on Red Panda. If you don't know who Red Panda is, maybe by taking a look at her on the screen, you'll recognize her. You see her at a lot of halftimes of sporting events, usually basketball games. You'll see her out on the court doing her thing. She's 8 feet high on a unicycle, and she's pedaling and staying in place, but she's also doing this thing where she balances like cups and bowls on her head. Well, she got hurt at the Fever Lynx Commissioner's Cup Championship game in the WNBA the other night. She fractured her wrist. And she's going to be out of action for a while. And I don't know what kind of insurance she has or anything like that, but for everything she's done for NBA teams, WNBA teams, college teams, I'm hoping that those leagues get together and do what they can to help her out, because I'm sure she doesn't make a ton of money doing what she does. I'm sure it's a labor of love largely. And I'm hopeful that people will step up in her time of need and help out Red Panda if they have the means to do so. Hopefully those NBA teams, college teams, they all just put a few bucks in and help pay her medical expenses. It would be a great thing. We're wishing all the best to Red Panda. Odds and ends. Oh, it is a tradition unlike any other. No, we're not talking about the Masters, Jim Nantz. By the way, did anybody see that? Not to veer too far off course here. Anybody see Jim Nantz and Joe Buck playing golf together with their kids? And Jim Nantz turning to the camera going, "Hello, friends." For whatever you think of Jim Nantz, at least he's able to laugh at himself at this stage of life. Pretty funny stuff if you didn't get a chance. Go on social media and see it. But there it is, a tradition unlike any other. You'll see it on the 4th of July. Joey Chestnut stuffing tons of hot dogs down his gullet. Who knows how many he'll eat. He's done, 62 in whatever picture from whatever year this was. Joey Chestnut is back at the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest on Coney Island. Now, I will tell you, I lived in New York City for 10 years. I live in Vegas now. I lived in New York City for 10 years. Not once did I go to Coney Island to watch the madness that is the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. I have eaten the Nathan's famous hot dogs myself, and they are very good. Not as good as Hummel's hot dogs. We love our friend Eric Hummel, by the way, in Connecticut. If you have never had a Hummel's hot dog, Hummel's hot dogs, just fantastic, out of this world. My old buddy Eric Hummel, just fantastic. But the Nathan's hot dog eating contest is coming up, and Joey Chestnut is back this year after taking last year off. There was some dispute between him and the competitive eating league. Yes, there is such a thing. But Joey Chestnut is back. Here's the one thing I marvel at. And Joey Chestnut is the greatest to be the greatest at anything any human has ever done. Nobody's ever done it better than him at anything. That includes the great Michael Jordan. That includes anybody. Nobody's better. Nobody's ever beaten this guy when it comes to the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. Which leads me to ask this question as we round out the show today. You're telling me in this entire world of a zillion people that we can't find somebody to challenge Joey Chestnut. Just challenge him. Somebody just make it interesting when we get to the 4th of July and the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. You're telling me we just can't find anybody? I find that very hard to believe. I'm calling shenanigans on this one. Give me somebody. I can't eat that many hot dogs, so it ain't going to be me. My husband can't even bear to watch it because the gluttony is just so disgusting to him. People just... It is quintessential America, isn't it? It's going to do it for us. Enjoy your 4th of July. Be safe. Thank you, Sam Yarnell. Thank you to David Aardsma. We'll see you back here next week.